Welcome to the Choral Cultural Competency training. This training is for people who will be seeing choral study participants face to face. This training will give you an overview of cultural competency, what it is, why it is important, and how you can use it when interacting with study participants. What is cultural competence? Cultural competence in healthcare describes how well care is provided to people with diverse values, beliefs, and behaviors. This can be shown on an organizational level and an individual level. Organizations can show cultural competence by creating systems that value diversity, cultural difference, and self-awareness. This organization will also promote opportunities for individuals to become more culturally competent and, as a whole, demonstrate behaviors to work cross-culturally. Culturally competent individuals use their knowledge, skills, attitudes, and attributes to enhance their ability to interact with a diverse range of communities and work effectively in cross-cultural situations and contexts. There are several reasons why cultural competency is important, and this slide highlights just a few key points. The core of cultural competence recognizes and emphasizes diversity. It is also part of addressing inequalities and delivering equal opportunities. By recognizing that every person has a right to service and meeting their needs, it improves the quality of research and outcomes of service for all participants. Finally, being culturally competent is fundamental to good community engagement. How do you become culturally competent? There are 4 key components to becoming culturally competent. Firstly, self-awareness, which involves being aware of your own culture, attitudes, biases, and prejudices towards others. Cultural knowledge, which is the continuous process of understanding the world, its communities, and people's views. Cross-cultural skills, the skills required to communicate from one culture to another. And finally, practice, where you turn your knowledge and skills into patterns. Self-awareness. First, we will talk about self-awareness. To become aware of ourselves, we must first recognize our own culture. Through this, we can practice cultural humility, where we recognize that there are differences even within our own culture, and it is not better than others in any way. Secondly is to tackle our unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is when our brains make quick judgments and assessments of people without deliberate thought. We all have these biases, and they can be influenced by our backgrounds, personal experiences, and culture. An example of a very common bias is the conformity bias, where we favor others who are like us and judge those who are not. Another example is the use of stereotypes, to oversimplify and make a universal judgment about a person or group of people. To overcome our biases, we need to take our time to assess and examine our bias, then to challenge our bias and be self-critical about it. Remember to use evidence rather than instinct to justify your positions or decisions. Cultural knowledge. To develop our cultural knowledge, first we should understand what culture actually is. There may be several different understandings as to what culture should be defined as. Broadly, culture can be considered the sum total of a way of living, and that includes lifestyles, such as leisure activities and diet, practices and customs, including celebrations or art, roles and relationships, such as attitudes towards marriage and community structure, beliefs and values, which can include religion or attitudes towards health and medical treatments, and communication, like the slang used, body language, or level of eye contact. Cultural knowledge is more than just learning a list of facts about a community. It is also about understanding that culture is intersectional, so multiple factors of culture can come together and influence people differently. For example, the experiences of and discrimination faced by a Hindu woman will be different from a Hindu of another gender or a woman that practices a different religion. Additionally, it is important to keep in mind that culture is dynamic. It frequently changes, and presently it is changing faster than ever due to globalization and migration. Cross-cultural skills. To build relationships and understand the world we live in, we need to use cross-cultural skills. These skills include, but are not limited to, understanding the principles of equality and diversity, being understanding and inclusive, developing trust and confidence between communities, showing personal qualities when interacting, like interest, warmth, friendliness, respect, and empathy, understanding the sensitivities involved in intersectionality, self-reflection, and appreciating different views. Practice. The final component of cultural competency is to practice. Remember to be aware of your own biases. Research to expand your knowledge, like finding out how to make initial contact with a specific culture. Remember intersectionality. Not everyone in a community will be the same. Finally, be familiar with the relevant terminology people of specific cultures may use. How can we apply cultural competence when interacting with participants? We can think of it in 3 time points: before, during, and after engaging with someone about the choral study. Firstly, before you make contact with people, you should make sure you are familiar with the choral study. Remember that the study training manual, protocol, and participant-facing materials are available to refer back to. But if you have further questions, please contact the choral study team. If you are helping someone in person through the consent process or filling in a questionnaire, ensure you have all the materials you require prepared in advance, including any of the translated materials you may need. Consider if there are concerns about the study which could be commonly raised within a particular community. For example, informing that the ingredients are halal to those who are Muslim, or explaining the safety and regulations of the trial to those of ethnic minority backgrounds that may have a distrust of clinical trials due to historic injustices. Keep in mind any important religious or cultural dates or times that you may need to work around when arranging a time to speak or meet with potential participants. This can include times of prayer, important cultural holidays such as Easter or Diwali, and also times when people might be busy with their families, such as picking up their children from school. Finally, if you are meeting in person, be mindful of the most appropriate clothing to wear. It is more respectful in many cultures to wear more modest clothing. When you begin engagement, be mindful of greetings and physical contact. People of some cultures may not wish to shake hands or be otherwise touched in greeting, particularly when it is a man greeting a woman. Ensure you are actively listening to the concerns and questions people have during your engagement. When responding, emphasize and repeat vital information and do not be afraid to politely confirm whether you have been understood. It may be helpful to deliver information in smaller chunks so it is not overwhelming and easier for you to repeat and remember. You may also find it helpful to match the speed and volume of your speech with the person you are talking to. This may further help you to be understood and make those you are communicating with feel more comfortable. Some cultures may prefer a more respectful manner of speaking, particularly towards those who are older, while in others it may be more common to speak loud and informally. Consider that you may be speaking with someone who does not speak English as a first language, so be mindful of any jargon or slang terms that you use. Remember to direct people to the study leaflets and the choral study team for further information and for any questions you cannot answer. While you should help address any concerns someone may have, views can differ and this is okay. It is important to recognize when someone is not interested in participation and not make them feel pressured to participate. Lastly, following your engagement, you should reflect on what went well and how you could improve for the next interaction. You may wish to practice or role-play example conversations to improve on how you deliver information or tackle any unconscious biases you may have. Staying connected to community members can also help you continually improve your understanding of different cultures and recognize any changes that may happen within them. It may be helpful to reach out to charity groups or organizations who work with a diverse range of cultures for advice, such as the Center for Ethnic Health Research. Finally, please ensure you remain up to date with CORAL. We will alert you to any changes you need to be aware of and need to communicate to potential participants. This could include new versions of handout material if you are attending in-person events. We have now covered what cultural competency is, why it is important, and how we can become culturally competent through self-awareness, cultural knowledge, cross-cultural skills, and practice. This concludes our cultural competency training. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any further questions, please email the CORAL team on coral-study@bristol.ac.uk. If you want to access any further cultural competency related material, please visit the Centre for Ethnic Health Research website for some helpful resources and see the reference used to create this training in the bottom left. The code word for this training video is CFAN.